This is the first of a new set of videos exploring how we can encounter meaning in digital spaces, and in particular how video games can offer more than just entertainment. Before we talk about interpreting and understanding what happens when someone plays a video game, first we need to understand what they are. Whether that's in the family, a social setting, a youth or community group. In these spaces, video games are often seen as an affordable and novel way to entertain, or to create a context for conversation or trust building. They've also been used, although less frequently, like illustrative film clips in talks, in sermons and school assemblies, underlining teachable moments that relate to the topic of the day. However, they are rarely considered to be sites of meaningful encounter in their own right. We have not expected to find faith, discover the divine, deal with worries, or have our ethics challenged by the virtual spaces that video games create. This is not surprising. Benefiting from video games in this way is much more difficult, and we must pass a variety of hurdles. There's the stigma around game violence, addiction and commercialisation. There's the niche literacy to know where to start, or how you might find these meaningful encounters. There's the fast changing and emergent nature of video games themselves. And there's the time and understanding required to discover gaming's deeper benefits. Dealing with these hurdles takes time, but it's work well worth doing. This approach of looking for inherent meaning in the games we play, rather than projecting meaning onto them by inclusion in other rituals, means we start to capitalise on what games uniquely have to offer. This perspective stems from an understanding of video games that aims to correct misconceptions about what they are. Video game roots are in competition and entertainment and have largely been dominated by these self-inflicted themes in wider culture. Advertising money and shock headlines set up an either-or debate where individuals consider themselves gamers or non-gamers. We are forced to side either with or against video games. Equally, the games found in newspaper headlines and topping the charts are often violent and juvenile in nature. Similar to how comics have become synonymous with superheroes, and so have become uninteresting to those not interested in superpowers, video games are becoming synonymous with violence and shooting virtual enemies. However, video games are hugely diverse and varied. They address an almost unending breadth of topics, from cancer to prayer to childhood abandonment to ecstatic worship of creation and even the fleeting nature of life. Most of these are not discovered or accessible to communities because of their niche nature and being drowned out by the noise surrounding bigger blockbuster games. Video games are also often seen as repackaged or interactive versions of books, movies or theatre. While they do share elements of these other media, the way games work, what they are, what they might have to offer, is something more distinct than it first appears. Unlike books, video games do not tell stories or describe locations. Instead, they task players with discovering or overhearing narratives ongoing in their worlds. They invite players to explore and, at times, lose themselves in the geography of the environments they create. Unlike films, video games do not always dictate what players see or direct their interpretation of a particular scene. Instead, they ask players to control their own point of view and construct their own sense of what is unfolding around them.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
You
are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
The water is often muddied by keen gamers who promote the secondary benefits of games. Perhaps play can be used to solve problems or teach us about intrinsic aspects of life. Or they are promoted as good because of their educational nature, developing reasoning, teamwork, historic understanding, strategic thinking, communication, hand-eye coordination to name a few. However, this again mixes up what they can achieve with what they are. Similar to a painting, sculpture or piece of theatre, video games are most significant when encountered as a whole. They are useless objects in the good sense of that word, having no other true purpose but to be encountered as beautiful, unsettling, troubling, joyful, sad, or maybe even worshipful. We can domesticate them for all kinds of noble purposes, but this misses the point. Their unpredictability is intrinsic to them. Their fierce, untamable torrent of experiences, ideas and emotion-flooding interactions are an indelible part of what at best they have to offer. With all this in mind, we can see why it has made sense to use games in social settings as entertainment, conversation starters, or allegorical illustrations in services. This is not a problem in itself, but the potential for interactive experiences to contribute more substantially is untapped territory. Of these benefits, I'm looking specifically at the new spaces they create in which we can encounter meaning. You may quite rightly be sceptical, but let's consider some recent games we have played in our communities. The Last of Us included my community in an emotional story that provided an opportunity for us to process past pain. That Dragon Cancer implicated us as a member of a family with a young child with cancer. Proteus created liminal spaces for us to visit where interactions and visuals and music led us into meditation and contemplation. Joust challenged us to move and interact with each other virtually and physically in unusual ways. My hope is that this perspective provides a scaffolding that will enable us to capitalise on video games' potential. This leads to questions about the spaces that video games create and how we might appropriately and authentically use them. I'll be looking at this in detail in the next video. These videos support the Grove booklet, Encountering Meaning in Digital Spaces, available from their website. It's been created and supported by my patrons. If you'd like more videos on this and other topics to help parents get more from gaming, for as little as $1 or £1 a month, you get my video and email newsletter each week.